Okay, I put this sort of mandrel thing in here. I'm going to make some jump rings, and the reason for that is we make quite a lot of a sort of Christmas decoration things that hang from a tree. We glaze these on both sides on little kiln stilts, so the glazed side doesn't stick to the shelf. And we usually make a hole in the back of them here, and through that we put a little jump ring, and so people can hang them up on a piece of ribbon or something like that on the tree. And actually, I don't solder the jump ring together or anything, so you can people can take it off. Now I want to show you how I make that, because I've just using some plain wire. Now it would be a bit nicer if I had some brass wire of this gauge, but at the moment I haven't. But this is quite flexible. It's they're pretty easy to handle, and I've just put it in this nice little adjustable Raybone Chesterman vise here, and I've cut a groove here, and I'm going to put this piece of wire inside the groove so that I can hold this captive in the vise like that, and do that up. There it is. It's moving, but it's fixed, as it were. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to bend this. This is a very malleable wire, and I'm going to bend it in a tight spiral around this mandrel. Keep going. Now, because this wire is quite malleable, it is not going to spring apart when I let go of it. So I'm going to take it all the way back through to the top there, and I've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cycles there, circles I should say. So I'll have about 5 jump washers. I want to show you this because I've got a bit of duct tape here, and I'm just going to tear a little bit off and put it underneath like that, because I'm now going to cut these off like that. So I'm going to use one of these millimeter thick discs, and I'm going to put it in this angle grinder here, which is a cordless job. Now, just in case you don't know, I mean, I imagine most people watching this would know, but the top half of the clamp on the angle grinder has a flange on one side, and it's plain on the other side. Now this is a 1 millimeter disc, so it's actually fitted over the little boss on this part here, so it's flush there. So if I put the flange bit down, it isn't going to hold it, so I use the plain part of this down. Don't forget there are 2 sides to that. And the reason is that not all grinding discs are 1 millimeter thick. We might have something quite a bit thicker in it, like one of these Pret wheels, for instance, I've just taken off it, is much thicker in the middle, and that would require this locking nut to be on the other way around. Now I can tell this is a brushless motor because it's sort of clicking like this, but I'm just going to, I don't really need to do this up very tight, because you do it up, but don't over tighten it. You don't need to, because the motion of the wheel going around is going to hold that in place. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this off. So you want goggles on, and just need to So now I can take my little bit of duct tape off the back, and I should have a number of complete rings in the palm of my hand. That's one that isn't complete. That was the end of it. That was the other end. But I've got 4 complete ones, and I'll probably be able to use that one as well. So there we are. We got 4 complete ones like that. Now this is what I want to show you. I'm going to remove the mandrel now from the vise, put it on the bench, and now in order to fix one, I'm going to put this jump ring into the vise like that. Okay, so the opening of it is here, and let's see if I can bring that in any closer. Okay, so in order to put this little fellow through that, I'm going to have to open it up wide enough for the jump ring to accept that gap between the hole we've made and the edge of the bird here. Right, now I don't pull the metal apart like that. I'm going to pull it apart like that. See, what I've done is I've bent that away like that. Now I can put that through the bird there, okay, and now I've got to join it up again. So I'm going to do the opposite to what I've just done and push that open end there back in line with the other part of it like that. If I was to pull it apart, it wouldn't go back together again, and that's because I've now work hardened this metal. So what I've done is that's pretty solid there now. I'm not, as I say, I'm not going to solder it. It's not necessary. It doesn't really have to take any weight. But if you look at it, it's round. It joins in the centre where it's supposed to. I can move it all the way around like that. Okay, and there's a minimal gap there, but actually I could get rid of that quite easily. But if I was to pull this ring apart, let's put this one in here, see if I can close this one up. This was either the beginning or the end of it, so it's not a proper circle. Okay, so that isn't a circle. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull that, I'm going to open it in the other direction. In other words, I'm going to pull this out in that direction there. I need to do it up a bit tighter. Well, it's hard to do that, actually. And the reason is that although this wire is very flexible, it doesn't want to move now because it's already been work hardened by bending it around this mandrel in the first place. Okay, so as soon as I start to bend the metal, it's going to get harder. It's a phenomenon in metal called work hardening. And you've probably experienced it with a metal coat hanger, in as much as when you repeatedly bend a piece of wire, it eventually gets hot and then it breaks. Well, it's getting hot because it's getting hard, and you're applying a lot of force to that, and you're interfering with the makeup of the metal, and it's making it harder. So these little rings here are already quite hard, and in order to open them up, I've got to push this bit of it down against that bit, either leaving it alone or pulling it in the other direction. Then I've got to close them up in the same way, and that's going to make that part of the metal ring harder. So that's work hardening for you. What if you had a ring like that you wanted to take off without damaging something? You'd pull it apart in the same way if you could. If it was something that's much bigger, you would have to soften it. And the way in which we soften metal is a process called annealing. And that is where you make the part you want to be softer. In this case, it would be this bit. You would make it hot, and you would heat it up to about cherry red heat. That's quite a dull red heat, and let it cool down slowly, and then that should have softened it. Now, I think different metals behave in different ways like this. So some you can heat up and quench in water, or let cool down slowly, has the same effect. Others you mustn't quench. So with copper, for instance, if this was made of copper and you wanted to soften it, you could heat the whole thing up to a red color. When you can soon see it starts getting quite wavy and fiery looking, but don't overheat it because copper melts at quite a low temperature. And you can either dip that in water or you can let it cool down slowly. It doesn't matter, it'll make it soft, whichever one you do. And the way of making it hard again is to work harden it. Often that requires hitting it with a hammer, that will work harden it, or bending it, that will work harden it. And in jewellery, you end up actually hitting this stuff with a hammer more often than not. Now here's a bit of my raw material here, and you can see it's if I take a length of it here, I'll just demonstrate that if I take this end of this piece here and bend it like that, look, it's very easy to bend, and I'll probably be able to bend it back, but it's taking more force to bend it back than it took to get it there. And I would have to apply the bending very carefully to the part that I've just distorted. Otherwise, it can bend somewhere else. It'll bend here or it'll bend here because that's still soft. But this bit that I bent in a curve is now going to be harder than the rest of it. It's fun working with metal. It's let's just put a spring in the middle of that. And so if I put this bar back in the vise, she's only a tiny little vise, but it's quite handy. So if I take this spring, if I take this piece of wire like this, and I bend it around like that on itself, like that, I've made a spring. Okay, so if I just move that far enough away so you can see there's the spring, there's the other end of it. So I've now made that into a spring simply by hardening this part in the middle of it. So you actually can make your own findings for jewellery. If you're into metal enamelling or something like that, you can easily make pin brooches in this method with brass wire. I think this is steel. It's pretty malleable steel, and it's galvanized, it's coated with zinc, so it doesn't go rusty, and looks a little bit brighter in the middle where I've cut it. Can you see that on the edge of it? Looks a little bit brighter there. Anyway, so I'm going to put a much bigger piece of wire on that mandrel now and cut 20 or 30 of these because it's always handy to have them on there. People can still remove them if they want to, but it's much easier to wire it up, and we do little things that hang outside as well, and little plaques that say I'm in the garden and stuff like that. So we make all kinds of stuff, and it's these little rings are useful. And I just noticed I didn't have any. I'm just going to zoom that back out, show you this quite cute little vice. It's I think I picked it up at a motorbike auto jumble sale or something, and it's you can swivel it around like that, and then lock it off on this little lever at the back. It's got a bit of a cam on it, and it just locks it in place like that, and it's quite handy little thing to have on a woodwork bench, which is what this is. And I don't really have room for a metalwork bench in here, so basically I haven't got one, and that one just sits there on a clamp like that. But nice sort of thing. And anyway, there we are. One last point I would make about vices here. That squeaky old Lervad vice there, which is an excellent woodwork vice, and came out of a school. One thing I would, if you ever come to set a vice up on a bench, this is how you do it. You open the jaws like that, and you put a piece of wood in the jaw of the vice that extends way down beneath the bench like that. And then you can move your vice before you fasten it back towards the bench. A lot of people put their vices too far back on the bench, and they find when they put something long in there that that it hits the surface of the bench. So the back jaw of the vice must be at least in line with the front of the workbench. You see what I'm saying there? So we've got quite a long piece of wood here. Bit of teak or something of that sort by the look of it. And there we go. Clear of the vice. Very handy. Don't make the mistake of putting your vice too far back on the bench. You won't be able to put anything long in it. It'll just hit the surface of the bench. Okay guys, that's it. Just a short one, and I hope you found it useful.